Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kayleigh Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies, and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Amy Atkinson, who is the CEO of the Femtrepeneur and the Social Sales CEO. And in this episode, we are going to be diving into how you can turn your followers into buyers. Amy, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast.
So much for having me. I'm so excited to get into this.
We're going to be talking all things content because I know you are the queen of content, and I know that you are bringing some incredible tips, but ultimately a strategy to help our listeners today so they can make more sales through their socials. But before we dive into any of that, I think it would be fantastic for you to share with our listeners a little bit about you and your story.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Amy Atkinson. I am a serial entrepreneur. Can't sit still for more than 5 minutes, but that's okay. We can move. We're not trees. I am also a wife, a dog mum, a cat mum, and I have a beautiful daughter. But let's get into business because that's what we're here for. We're not here to talk about personal things right now. So I have had my digital marketing agency now for 11 years. And I've also got my coaching and training company, the Femtrepeneur, and then I've got a property investment firm with my other half as well. And who knows what's going to happen in 2026? I've got itchy feet for investing in other things. But anyway, we are predominantly talking about you guys making sales from social media today. And I was actually listening to one of your podcasts with, what's she called? Daisy? The one that's just gone live? Yeah. And I really wanted to quickly talk on this because you're right, you guys were talking about a lot of people saying that you can go out there and you can make sales from postal media, from social media, by just posting more, do more, post this, post a gajillion times a day. And I really want to talk to your listeners today about how you don't need to do that, and you also don't need to go viral. That's another big myth that we hear all the flipping time. I have never gone viral in my life. And yet I have built my two businesses predominantly from social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're so right. I mean, obviously the viral thing, I talk about all of the time, and I say, you never need to go viral. It is about that quality. It's about that consistency. And yeah, we're definitely going to have a conversation on this because I think it's so interesting. And I'm very much a person, and my listeners will know this, that, you know, if you want to be that iconic leader, if you want to stand out, if you want people to buy from you, that quality of the content has to be so high to the extent where it is really activating people and moving people, literally emotionally moving people. But let's dive into this because I know you're here to share your strategy and what works for you and your clients and obviously your community. So I'm going to hand over to you. Do you want to share? Because I know what your strategy is. You shared it with me and it's fantastic. And I would love for you to kind of start from the top in regards to what is this strategy? I know that there are 4 kind of key stages. So I'm going to let you share this with everyone.
I think so. Yeah, you said there's 4 key stages, and real top line, you've got awareness. So the sort of content here is the content that's potent. It's going to get your listeners, we're on a podcast, that's why I said listeners, it's going to get your watchers, your audience actually to feel seen by you and actually see you. Then you move down into consideration type content. So this is where it's the type of content that's helping you feel, helping your ideal client feel that they trust you and that actually you can help. And I'm going to go into these in much more detail shortly, but moving down a little bit further, and if you imagine a funnel, I did that. Is this a visual podcast?
No, audio.
Fine. Right. So if you imagine a funnel, you're pouring beer in a funnel, you're pouring water in a funnel, and awareness is at the top. You move down to consideration. Next is opinion. So they're deciding you over somebody else. Pretty much every single person in our industry have got competitors. We've got people who do similar things to us. So why are you different? Why are you better? Why does your strategy work better than somebody else's? Why is it going to work for them over somebody else's? And then finally, you've got purchase. So why do they need a reason to act now? Why do they need to be doing those things now? And if you aren't creating content that fits every single level of the buyer journey, really, that is where you're going wrong. And what you might find is that actually you're creating loads of opinion content and purchase content, but you actually aren't getting new people into your audience all of the time. So you're just selling to the same old people who actually they didn't buy initially because you haven't activated them. So they're not going to buy now. And one of the things that I really think is important is that you don't want to be pushing somebody into a sale. You want to be guiding them into the sale so that they buy when they're ready. But equally, coming back to the consideration type of content, I was saying this when I was speaking at an event the other day, is that a lot of people perhaps found 2 or 3 years ago that actually their social media was banging. They were getting sales left, right, and center. Loads of people were watching their content. They were making loads of daily sales even, but now it's gone a bit quiet. And that's because we're in a trust recession.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your consideration content, people, they need to trust you, can actually help them. But if you aren't proving how good you are, so for example, if you're telling stories, we talk a lot about storytelling nowadays. People are saying, oh, tell stories. People buy from emotion. We were talking about this right at the beginning. They don't buy from facts necessarily. There's different buyer types, but that's not what we're going into today. Then you're literally leaving money on the table because they need that actual proof that people are buying. They need that actual proof that people are seeing results from you. So is that a screenshot? And is that a WhatsApp message that you can screenshot and edit the person's name out? Is that an email? Is that a Google testimonial that you can literally screenshot? We don't want to be telling the stories all of the time because people are like, yeah, Kate, but you could have typed that out, and you did type that out.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the trust, it's a massive, massive thing, like you said. And I always say to my clients and my audience as well, or my community, should I say, it's, it's about that safety as well. At the end of the day, if someone feels safe to invest in you, you have built that trust. But it takes a lot, like you said, gone with the days of, in 2022, where you put up a couple of screenshots and happy days, you've got 10 to 20 sales in the next 24 hours. It is a very, very different environment right now. And I think it's really important for everyone to really think about ultimately how are they building that trust, and the buyer's journey is absolutely one of the most important things to factor into any, I call them sales systems, so any sales system, to make sure that you are consistently bringing in new people into the top and obviously bringing them through, and I'm pretty certain my listeners will know that I it's something that I teach with my clients, and we go through the buyer's journey and we do it in a cycle rotation every single week throughout the entire year, and then we're bringing in every day into our stories. So it works really, really well strategically. But let's talk about this in more detail, because people are potentially listening to this going, what is this buyer's journey? I know it's got 4 stages. Let's start at the top with the awareness. What does this mean? What does awareness really actually mean? And can you give a little bit of maybe some examples or something for our listeners today?
Yeah, so the awareness bit is these people have not heard of you. They don't know who you are. So if you're going and collaborating with people, maybe you're doing all of the other things, so go and listen to the other lead generation podcast, because that was epic. Let's just earmark that and not go into that right now. But ultimately with the algorithms need to learn who you're putting yourself in front of and who you want to be put in front of. So if you're engaging with celeb content, if you're engaging with family content, if you're engaging with your ideal client type content and potential people and influencers in your space and in your industry, the algorithm is it's looking at not just what you're doing, but it's what other people are doing on your profile. So it's taking the average of all of those things. So we're actually not going into awareness content now, but this is a real key tip that I tell all of my clients, that everything that you're doing on social media is actually feeding into the algorithm as to who it's going to put you in front of. So your awareness content really, really needs to hit home to your ideal client. And your ideal client, I think nowadays, we all know who our ideal client is. We can describe who our ideal client is, but when it comes to content and getting people to stop scrolling and actually be thinking, oh, I quite like this person, or this person knows me, they are in my head, you need to stop using the describing words and actually be really, really specific as to what is going on for that person because of that describing word. So I'm using a very generic term now, but say you're talking about burnt out mums or overwhelmed mums or even people who want clarity. These are just describing words. But what does that actually mean for your ideal client? Because say a burnt out mum or an overwhelmed mum, if they're waking up at 3 a.m. with a clenched jaw and unable to sleep and thinking about their, I don't know, their to-do list the next day, that sentence is what's going to stand out in a very, very, very busy online world versus you're burnt out. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So your awareness content really needs to describe to a T all of the things that is going on for them. And ultimately, you can then frame all of this stuff positively, so it's not all pain point marketing and collapse the buyer journey and all of those things. But again, we don't have time to go into all of that stuff. But ultimately, it's that specificity that is going to help somebody stop scrolling because they feel seen by you, but also think, I might follow this person. And then remember, your call to action on this post isn't buy this.
Yeah.
It could be download your freebie. It could be follow me. But they are right at the beginning of their journey of coming across you. So if you go straight in with I don't know, even a £23 offer, it might not work.
Yeah.
So really think about it.
Yeah. So really welcoming them into your world. And like you said, sort of being able to share with them ultimately who they are and how they can connect. So ultimately sort of speaking to them at almost as if I say to my clients, imagine that you're almost inside their head so they can literally feel you, or they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood as such, through that content you're creating. So just really trying to make sure that you're connecting. And then, like you said, encouraging them to just follow, to keep watching, to keep their eyes peeled rather than sell, which is great. So that's the awareness stage. So hopefully that's given our listeners a little bit of an idea in terms of what type of content they can do around that. And then I know from awareness, because I always find awareness is a really, really fun type of content. I love creating that. I love doing lots of storytelling. I love going into the depths of the ideal client with my own content. And then when you move through to consideration, I think a lot of people potentially get stuck on this. In fact, consideration and opinion, but we'll talk about opinion in a minute. But consideration stage, how do people then go from awareness to consideration? Like, what does that actually look like when it comes to content?
So for me, it's getting them to trust you. Why does your stuff work? And let's start. I said this earlier, the trust recession is rife right now. Most of your clients have bought from somebody else and they haven't got the results that they want. So why would you be any different? And this is where it's really important to not just think about storytelling and the fact that, your ideal client came to you and they were feeling XYZ, but since working with you and this is your system, and now this is where they are. Like, you've talked them through that story, but where's the proof that actually happened? Is there something in your Stripe account, something in their Stripe account, a WhatsApp message that you've had from them it is really, really, really important that you're actually putting the proof in there now around the storytelling that you're talking about. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're creating a reel and you have to put the proof in that reel and every single carousel post and all of the things. It just means that you are including at least every other day some actual factual proof that your stuff works. And that's when people are really like, oh, okay, I've seen at awareness level that this person can help me. They understand me. At consideration level, I now actually feel like I can trust them. Look at all of the proof. Look at all of the things that they're actually saying. And they're screenshots. It's not just stories. And then we're moving into opinion. So now we're moving into, all right, so I get this person can help me. I actually really feel like they can help me because they've proved that. But actually, there's also someone over there. And why should I choose this person over that person? And then this is now about you. They're choosing you over another person. So why are you better? Why does your system work better than someone else's? Does it collapse timelines? Is it a certain strategy that actually works in a click of a finger? Is it that I don't know, you could be even better value because you're adding in more things that actually they also need help on all of these other things? What is it that they're going to choose you over somebody else for?
Yeah, so building trust, obviously from the consideration stage, and really showing them the work that you do and ultimately the results that it can achieve for people. And then opinion, really leaning into basically your methodology and ultimately what makes you different, and giving them that side of it as a leader, as what I would say, a leader, and just being able to share that. So our listeners, hopefully that makes sense in regards to the consideration stage. So consideration, you're really, really building that trust. You're showing through social proof, and then leaning into the opinion, use your methodology. Think about what is your framework, your unique methodology, or something that's going to really make you stand out, and share the reason why that works, ultimately, because again, I think based on what you've said, Amy, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, but in regards to your strategy and with the opinion, you've got to again be bold, stand out as a leader, and actually show them why your way is the way to go, is the one option, and the reason why this is so important for them and their future.
Yeah, 100%. So I think if I talk about a specific example that I've been talking about recently, is I was speaking at an event in Dublin in September, I think it was, and there was also a fellow speaker there. I asked the question when I was on stage, who makes sales from social media? And actually, what we're talking about today, I was talking about on stage. And the speaker put up her hand. So in my head, I'm like, okay, brilliant. She's absolutely smashing it. I'm going to be speaking to everyone in the room, but I didn't think I was speaking to her. And when it then came to it, she then actually came to me, not in front of anybody, really quietly. And she was like, I really need your help. Things have slowed down. So much like what we've been talking about on this podcast. And she didn't want anybody to know. And that's absolutely fine, because what goes on in our business is actually our own things, right? We don't really need to be sharing this with everybody if we don't want to be. But what I then realized was, okay, this is content, because there's probably a hell of a lot of other people out there that on the surface look like they're absolutely smashing it. They've got a 6-figure business, they're putting their hands up, and yet they're not necessarily behind the scenes making headway. They're not doing the things that they were hoping they would do. So in terms of awareness content, I'm then talking about the story, talking about how we met, talking about the reality of what was going on. Off the back of that, I've probably got 5 or 6 people in my DMs just chatting to me. But that's because I handle the conversation, and that every new follower, I will always say hello. Then within like 3 days, she's decided, right, she wants to work with me one-to-one. Happy days. Another 3 weeks later, I'm going to just really wrap this up quick. She she's made an additional €3,500 in monthly recurring revenue in 3 weeks. She had the audience. It's just that she hadn't activated them. So then when it came to opinion, she gave me all the screenshots. That was just she wanted to. So I then had the screenshots of her bank account last month and her bank account this month, her Stripe account. So I could then share those. I don't talk about who it is because she doesn't want specifically people to know who it is. But again, I'm sharing that actual proof. And then when I put sales content out, which is the bottom of the funnel, and I tend to do sales content as carousels on Instagram and as stories. I'm selling every single day on my stories unless I want a day off. If you want to be selling daily, you need to be selling daily. And I always link it back to this is what is possible. I don't ever guarantee it because you can't, but that is what is possible. And I'm really proving to people that they can absolutely have this too. And it makes those sales conversations in DMs so much easier.
Yeah, 100%. It's such a great example. And thank you for sharing that example as the story as well. So I think, again, it really puts it into perspective and gives our listeners, a little bit more of an insight of that. And I just want to touch on stage 4 in terms of sales, again, for our listeners. So obviously you and I know what sales content is. What does it actually look like? Like, can you give a little bit more for our listeners to kind of help them? I know you were mentioning sort of carousels and you do it in your stories every day, but what is sales content and what's kind of like an example of it, or how can people create this?
Yeah, so put simply, it is actually asking for the sale, but I get very specific as to what the end result is for whatever it is that I'm selling. So if it's my mastermind, then it's 12 months of working with me. If it's working inside my accelerator program, that is still 12 months, but they're still getting incredible results in there. There's just obviously a lot less one-to-one support, but you have to really dig in deep to the end results and the transformation as to what somebody's going to get. So I've got that in terms of a structure. I always talk about the end results, like what it is that they're hoping for, what it is that they could get. And then in the middle, I tend to have a proof point, a client story, a testimonial as to how they've actually achieved whatever that end transformation is. And then there's a call to action at the end.
Perfect. Okay, so we've talked through the 4 stages and such a great strategy and something that people will be able to easily implement literally as of today. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got a content strategy, make sure you listen to what Amy said today, because I think this is really going to help you. So Amy, I know I sort of briefly said earlier that I teach my clients to go on a weekly rotation when it comes to the buyer's journey. But what do you do personally? What is your easiest way to do content in regards to the buyer's journey and sort of taking them through the 4 stages?
Very similar to you, but it actually depends if I'm in launch and if my clients are in launch.
Yeah.
So if outside of launch, I spend a good month, 2 months of really raising my visibility and really focusing on the awareness content. You want as many people as possible coming into your world if you're going into launch and you want to be converting new people. Mm-hmm. So most of my time throughout the year, I am focusing on awareness content. And I would say that actually, if you then average that out across the year, it's probably 60 to 70% of my time is focused on that visibility and awareness stuff. And then around 20-ish% is opinion and consideration. And then I say 10% is purchase. But in reality, I still post daily on stories that is sales content. And when I say sales content, it could be my freebie. To me, that's still a sale because that's now a warm lead. That they're not just a follower, they're actually in your world way more because they're on your email list and you've got more control over them. We all know that we have no control over social media and all of the algorithm changes. So when I say I spend 10% of the purchase content, that is generally on my grid. Whereas stories, I do pretty much sell something every single day, following the same structure that I said earlier.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Very, very similar to how I do it as well, which I think is great. And if we've got some listeners right now they're posting content, they might not be necessarily following this strategy because we've only just shared it, but they're following a strategy that they've potentially been taught elsewhere, and their content isn't converting. What would you say to them is the first thing that they should do, really, or look at before changing anything?
I love this question, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone say this. But one of the first things I always do is literally look at the feedback I'm getting, look at what people are actually saying to me, and that then becomes a basis of my content. Like I said to you earlier, with the reality of that client who's now one of my one-to-one clients, I literally looked at that situation. I literally looked at what she was saying to me to then turn that into content. I had in my DMs the other day somebody who, and she literally said, she was like, your content is speaking to me. I can't wait to work with you. Now, in reality, it's because I based that content on a conversation that we had had. So if that's the sort of thing that you want to happen in your DMs, start to really understand and notice the feedback that you're getting, even if it's, I can't work with you right now. And we're not going into objection handling on this call, but on this podcast, but that what they're saying to you is content.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can then start to address it in a very visual, open place and make somebody feel like you're speaking to them, because you are.
Yeah. I think that's such great, advice in regards to really listen to the feedback, look at the feedback, look at what people are saying, how people are interacting, what conversations are you having, and then really create content based on that. And because not only will that one person feel as if you are speaking to them, but ultimately your ideal clients or the people that are similar to them will also do that.
Yeah, but exactly that, because not everybody is confident enough to reach out to you and say those things. But actually, you've probably got, I don't know, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30 other people feeling the same.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Great advice on that. And this has been incredible. I think sharing your strategy is a real tangible, strategy for people to implement, to go and implement, test, try, to take away today is fantastic. And it's a different way of doing the podcast episode today. So I've loved this. Can you give any final advice for our listeners before we finish off the episode?
I think we've said it a lot today, but one of the most important things is to really and truly understand your ideal client. And what I mean by that is the words that they're using, that should be the basis of your next piece of content.
Yeah.
You're already having these conversations with people. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, you've all made sales. What is it specifically that they're experiencing, thinking, feeling, saying? Because that is where your content should be.
Yeah. Really getting to the heart of the individual, the ideal client.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amy, it's been a pleasure. It's been such a great conversation. And like I said, I'm really grateful for you to come on and share your incredible strategy. And obviously for our listeners, where can they find you, connect with you? Have you got something incredible for them to find out a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yeah, of course. So come and follow me, come and stalk me at the Femtrepeneur on Instagram. Nobody can say it or spell it, but don't worry, it's going to be in the show notes. And I do actually have a £99 offer, but I'm going to give it to your listeners for £1. And it is going into detail and examples of exactly what we've talked about today. I think that, yeah, normally I charge £99, but you know what? Have it for £1. I'll give you the link and it will be a game changer for them.
Oh, amazing. Forever grateful for that. And just for £1, that is incredible. Ladies, the link is in the show notes. And if you're subscribed to my email list, the link has gone out in your emails. So do keep an eye open for that. Obviously, go and connect with Amy. She's incredible at what she does and really can support you and help you in regards to social media sales. So go and give her a follow, check her out, go and drop her a message. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you, and go and get the offer of £1. That's amazing. Great saving there as well. But no, thank you so much for sharing that. Amy, it's been a pleasure, darling. Thank you so much. And to all of our listeners as well, I want to thank everyone for tuning into today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, and I will see you all again next time.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast with me, your host, Kayleigh Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.